Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Horrocks. I'm a member of the board of the Ephemera Society. And it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is antiquarian bookseller Elizabeth Young, who passionately serves up books and ephemera for foodies from her inventory that includes a menu from the famous Los Angeles whiskey A Go-Go punk nightclub to a more staid craft brochure from the New York World's Fair. In her talk entitled Remedies to Recipes, Ms. Young will compare the ephemera that predominated in America before the enactment of the 1906 Food and Drug Act, principally recipes, or known as receipts then, and home remedies, food as medicine, quackery, and nutrition, with post-enactment ephemeral material which dealt with issues as vitamins and baby care and the rise of corporate food processing. So I think you're going to find this a very interesting talk. So it's my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Young.
Thanks, Tom. Can you hear me okay? Actually, that menu went over to Michigan State University, so I don't know what they're collecting over there, but they took quite a few interesting things. I'm going to just get right to it because I know we're running time-wise. So my first picture is of a book, which is very ugly looking on the outside because it's held together by electrical tape. But it was a family book that from 1869, people used it to figure out, how to treat themselves. But the best thing about this book was what was inside. There was so much ephemera inside. It's astounding. There were letters from family members. There were prescriptions. It really opened my eyes. It made me realize that people use these books almost like a Bible. They just handed it down to people. It's not a pretty book, but pretty amazing book. This is a prescription that was inside it from South Hadley, 1929. I really couldn't understand what the writing was, but it's kind of interesting. This is one of the pieces of ephemera that was inside a 1910 naturopathic pamphlet. This gentleman was out of Minnesota. And there's a lot of black and white pictures inside of these odd machines that they used at the time, an ozone treatment, an X-ray treatment, and this really interesting electric light bath cabinet. This was another piece of ephemera inside, Dr. Caldwell's syrup, which featured pepsin, which is actually what is in Pepsi. It's a AIDS digestion, so I guess that's where Pepsi came from. But Senna and Pepsin were in this piece of ephemera. Hold on. I missed a whole 7 and 8. Oh, well. This is an American manuscript from 1896, Quincy, Mass. Let's see. The most exciting thing about this manuscript is that it was a Mark Twain scrapbook. Mark Twain patented scrapbooking. He loved scrapbooking, but he hated the fact that stuff fell out. So he patented in the US in 1878, France 1877, and England 1877. It says right up there at the bottom, use but little moisture and only on the gummed lines. Press the scrap on without wetting it. And also within this book are quite a few pieces of ephemera. This was the Boston and Maine Railroad dining car menu. There were a lot of articles pasted in this manuscript. One that stuck out to me was a remedy from Mrs. Henry Ward Beecher on how to care for the sick. This actually just went to the University of Virginia, so I no longer have it. Here, this is what, okay, this was out of. These, I have 2 manuscripts that just came to me that I'm still looking through, but it is quite amazing because of the large amount of ephemera inside. dates from 1910 all the way to 1960. You can tell that this family came from Germany and ended up in New York by all the ephemera that's inside. There's handwritten recipes in German, in English, letters. One of the kind of really almost frightening pieces of ephemera that is inside is a letter typed, and I'll read it. It says, "Notice, we ask our unemployed comrades to forward their addresses to our secretary, Comrade Eugene Sable, Hanover, 12 Gretchen Street. Do it in writing only. From the Reichsbund Amendments of Jewish Infantry, signed Glaser, Hanover, December 3rd, 1934. So this was from before the war. That is Ida Hanneman's description of, what does that say, 1910? She was from Wildhausen, Lower Saxony, so believed that's where she started. She did end up in New York. This is just a picture of a lot of the stuff that's inside the book. There's an article from the New York Mirror from 1960s. There's a New York Times Magazine article in there from 1959, and a prescription written in German from a German doctor. So it spans a lifetime, again, showing how people use these books almost as a Bible. This is the second in the same, she had 2 books that I just recently purchased. There's not as much ephemera inside, but there's similar handwriting, although there are 2 other handwriting in the book, so you can see that maybe somebody else took the book after her. This manuscript that I just recently got is something that I don't normally come across, a North American manuscript. It originated from the Portland area, but what's really interesting is that it spans, I think, several generations in this family. 1913 to 1997, ephemera laid in. This is the front page of the manuscript. You can see that somebody drew a picture of the chef there, and she wrote what her name and the date, although there's 2 different dates. It's 1915 and 1913. And it almost reminds me a bit of a collage, this manuscript, the way they put things in very lovingly, also drawings, really a nice. This was the index, which was amended many times, showing who the authors were, talking, somebody writing in script, Grandma gave this to me at a certain date, and so it really gives you a nice family journey. This is the oldest manuscript I have in my inventory. It's from England, 1707. There are 3 different handwritings in it, absolutely beautiful. It's contemporary calf, paneled and blind, and it was rebacked, but it is in amazing shape, and the writing inside is fabulous. That is the first page, Mrs. Rachel Kirk, 1707. She says, "Be sure not to pay money when you have it not." So that was her wisdom to, I guess, her family. There's 2 different handwritings there. One was to make mead, one was for hartshorn jelly, but the writing is just spectacular. And you can see it wasn't lined, so they really took a lot of time doing this. This is another manuscript, the 1737 British manuscript. It's limp vellum, partially unbound. This is an amazing, I still have it, amazing manuscript. The first page has the woman's linen account, the family's linen account in it, describing what they had and how much of each thing. It was meticulously indexed, handwritten, all the same hand. This actually says, this is a remedy next to that for sore throat and lumps in throat. Now, the thing that took me by surprise with this book as well was the woman talked about in the first 3 pages where to find this certain herbs at the time. So she talks about going into the orchard and taking, 3 steps and finding this, a certain thing for plague water. So it's literally a look in time as to where these people were going to find their herbs to cure themselves. But this really was amazing. So this says for the cancer in a breast. And it's a pretty, I read through the recipe, the remedy. It is a very long remedy, takes days to do, and the only time you can do it is when blossom is in bloom. So it's a very particular time of year that you can actually make this remedy. This is a small English manuscript that I got from a Durham country house, 1877. It's all the same author in it, which she has pasted ephemera in it, which it also shows kind of the daily life of a English country house. I thought this was kind of fun. English pate de foie gras. It says very digestible. I thought that probably shows that the family's fairly wealthy, that this is what they're having. And then the other thing that was interesting was there's not 1 but 2 risotto recipes in this manuscript, which shows that probably they were fairly world travelers. This is the remedy that was pasted in and folded in, and it's from a pharmacy for Temple Black Salve, and the chemist actually is still in business. I looked it up, and there's a stamp in there. It's pretty interesting. This is a early 20th century manuscript. Nothing really very spectacular about it, but what was spectacular about it to me was the ephemera that was laid in. Here's some remedies inside for constipation, croup, weakness of the bladder, and there's a recipe for white liniment. This is the ephemera that was laid in. That just blew my mind when I opened the book, and I found a, what do you call that? A negative of a percussion cap pistol. So when I buy manuscripts, I never take anything out of them. So whatever is in them at the time, as people, I will go through the manuscripts and they'll say, "Can I buy this?" And I'm like, no, this stays with the book. So I thought that was, kind of interesting. And now I'm going to do just a couple of pieces of ephemera that I really like. This is an 1892 Nestle fold-out ephemera. It has beautiful illustration as well as black and white photos. This is the back of it, and it talks about how this product is made in Switzerland. I guess at the time, in the beginning of Nestle's, it was. And it says that Cupid's advice, give babies Nestle's food. This is a really lovely pamphlet from the Imperial Granum wheat company. There's black and white photos inside of babies. There's also areas where you can record and chart your own baby. There's a lovely collage of all different little cutout heads on the front and back covers. Just kind of lovely. This is a 1919 Fleischmann's yeast ephemera. Fleischmann's yeast went through a period where they tried to tell everybody that they could cure everything. And so you would eat yeast and you could get rid of constipation and pimples, and you could also use it as a flesh builder. I think these are one of the people that what they went after they enacted that drug act. This was really colorful and lovely. 1933, 1932, Kellogg's ephemera. Basically, they're trying to explain to people that if you do not eat Kellogg's, that constipation is a killer. And there's diets and recipes, but just everybody's so happy, and you just want to be that happy. This is an interesting piece of ephemera. It's 1931. It was put out by the Southern Dairies, and it's actually a novel. It's actually a story, and it's, but basically weaved within the story is the cleanliness within the dairies. So they're trying to sell the cleanliness of these dairies by this little novelette story that's within this book. And lastly, this is the remedies that are of today. This is Steamboat, Colorado. It's Rocky Mountain Remedies. And anybody 21 years or older can walk in to this store and buy edibles, chocolate, gummy bears, vapor pens. What I found amazing, I walked into the store, is that the people there are very knowledgeable about what it is that each thing can help. There's a million different types of marijuana, and it blew my mind, these guys and women behind the counter, what I guess because they've been selling to the medical marijuana, but now it's open to the public, and it's quite amazing. And that's it. Any questions? Everybody's done. Gordon. Yeah. I can't hear. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, okay, okay. Great, yeah. Nothing? Can you repeat it? Yeah. Yeah. What did you just say? Yes. Oh, okay. And then inside there were like cutouts of all real pictures of babies in these. So I guess they took this idea and used it within, yeah.
I'd like to amplify on your remark that you leave the ephemera in the book where you find it. You or ask you to amplify on it, do you frequently find interaction then between the place in the book that the ephemera is found and adjacent recipes, or have you tried to extract a meta-narrative of the
Yeah, like the first book that I mentioned, there was the prescription was right next to the area where it was for women's issues, and the prescription was for something for that. So there is that. And then there's also just, people just kind of stick things in there as they're going along. Recipes sometimes do correlate, but I do find that sometimes it's just stuck. Yes, absolutely. Especially cookbooks. I do a lot of cookbooks, and I feel as cookbooks, a lot of people with, antiquarian books don't like writing in it, whereas for cookbooks, I think it adds so much. It just shows what the person used it for, the different hands in it, the different recipes laid in. Yeah, I always keep everything there.
And along the same lines, do you find instances where a volume has been physically altered to create a pocket or create a binding with a special sort of compartment?
I have seen that, yes, absolutely. Is that it? Okay, we're done. Thank you.
Okay, this is remarkable for us, but we're actually a little early. So that means that instead of having an hour and a half for lunch, you have an hour and 45 minutes. So our speakers will be around if you have other questions you want to chat with them about. And don't forget, after our afternoon sessions, we also have the book signings. And so enjoy lunch, and thank you all for your rapt attention. Bye-bye.